wanted to talk about is, as you can see, nutrition for a healthy body. And in your packet, there are several handouts in there on nutrition. And as Kendra mentioned, I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Nutrition and Sciences, so I teach both graduate and undergraduate classes. And so I'm always thinking of assignments and quizzes and test questions. So I actually have a little quiz in your packet of information there that it's just to go through as I go through this talk, and I like doing things like that to get some interaction from people. So I'm going to talk about 3 steps for better nutrition. And so this is appropriate for really anyone, whatever phase of life you're in, of age you're in, of treatment you're in. So what are 3 things you can do to improve your nutrition? And I'll show you what that handout looks like. It's just nutrition for a healthy body, and there's a bunch of questions on there. So you should see that in there. And there's a couple other nutrition-related handouts that I'll just refer to a little bit. And as you can see at the end, I'm going to do a little smoothie demonstration, and I'll talk about that too. So the first thing, and let me mention on that handout, at the top of the page, I have where you can put your name and email if you're interested. This past fall, probably in September, I developed and started a nutrition website that's devoted to nutrition and cancer, and it's called Nourishing Plate. If you look it up, it's nourishingplate.com. And so with that, there's a lot of nutrition information related to cancer, as well as a lot of healthy recipes. One of the things that prompted me to develop that was I feel when I was looking at things online, on Facebook, on different groups, I felt like there was extremes in terms of nutrition. It was either you have to be very restrictive in your diet, or it was all recipes using tons of butter and tons of sugar. It was one way or another. And so I just wanted to provide information and then share recipes of a more moderate, healthy approach. And so if you're interested in being added to that email list, you can write your name and email, and I'll add you to it, or you can do that on the website itself. But it's been a lot of fun, and I've met a lot of great people through doing that, and my husband gets to try a lot of recipes, some of which turn out and some don't. But so the first thing that will help in terms of nutrition and help keep us healthy is to eat more vegetables. And your mom probably told you that growing up, but certainly it still holds true today. So looking at this very first question that's on your handout too, according to the CDC, what percentage of Americans eat the recommended amount of vegetables that they should per day? So what do you think? So I heard 10, I heard 30. It's actually number 1, 10%, and it's actually a little bit less than that. Only 9% of Americans eat the recommended amount of vegetables that they should each day. And that recommended amount is about 2 to 3 cups of vegetables a day. So why do we want to, what's the importance of eating vegetables or eating what we call a plant-based diet? And this is what's recommended for people with cancer, for cancer survivors, for just really the general population, to have a plant-based diet. And that doesn't necessarily mean, although it could be a vegetarian diet, but it doesn't mean you have to be vegetarian. It's just choosing more plant-based foods. And you can see the benefits of that in terms of the phytonutrients. I'll talk about that in a minute. Weight maintenance, it's heart healthy, particularly with diabetes. It can help prevent and manage diabetes, having a more plant-based diet approach, and especially with blood pressure. That's one thing, having more fruits and vegetables can help lower blood pressure. So talking about phytonutrients, you've probably heard that word, and nutrients, but phyto is plant, so plant nutrients. They're the nutrients in plants that help protect the plants from disease, but can also help protect us. And so a plant-based diet and phytonutrients in those foods are from vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts and seeds, and beans. They help promote healthy tissues, and they help support our immune system to help protect us from disease, from infection, from disease. So the recommended intake of fruits and vegetables, as I mentioned, vegetables 2 to 3 cups per day, and about 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit a day. So having a wide variety of these foods. So here's another question. Which of the following is not a cruciferous vegetable? I'll give you a minute to look at that. So cruciferous is a certain category of vegetables. And I'll show a picture on the next slide of what that is, but it has the answer on the next slide. Any guesses? Okay, so I hear a bunch of things. The answer is actually spinach. Okay, so spinach is not a cruciferous vegetable. So the cruciferous vegetable is in really the same family as cabbage and Brussels sprouts. And you can see over to the right all the vegetables that are considered cruciferous vegetables. And why I mentioned this, there's a lot of health benefits from this category of vegetables. And on your picture and on that question, you saw cauliflower there. I feel like cauliflower is kind of the it vegetable right now. You see it everywhere. Well, there's a lot of other vegetables that have really those same nutritional properties and benefits. So the things like your broccoli, your greens, your arugula, that was one that don't necessarily think of necessarily as being kind of similar in category as cabbage and cauliflower, but it is. So including these particular vegetables in your diet is very healthy. So here's another one. Which of the following is not a superfood? So I included this one because, again, I spoke earlier about how much I see online, and you see kind of the next great thing. Kale was really, or it's still pretty big, but really big a year or two ago. Everything had kale in it. We see a lot of acai, or however you pronounce that. But basically the answer here is none of the above. There's no true definition of a superfood. All of these, I would say, are considered superfoods. They all have different health benefits to them, different vitamin, mineral, phytonutrient contents. And so if there's a particular food that maybe you're seeing a lot of that you just don't like, that's okay. You can choose something else and still get health benefits. For me, I'm not a big blueberry fan. I just don't really like the taste. But I like strawberries, I like other berries, so I can still get those same health benefits and nutrients from that. So some tips to increase fruit and vegetable intake, and this was one of your little handouts in your packet too. Have a variety of things. So try and branch out and try new fruits and vegetables that maybe you haven't experienced before. Try different preparation methods or cooking methods. If you've never roasted vegetables, that's a great way to kind of bring out their natural flavor, bring out the natural sweetness. You might see a lot of spiralized vegetables. That's a big thing now. So try that as a different way. Layer. Start with something you like and layer on vegetables. So an example of this is if you like macaroni and cheese, then let's add some broccoli to that. And then we're including that vegetable with something we already like. So on that handout, it was 20 ways to increase your fruit and vegetable intake. That very first one on there was talking about adding vegetables to pizza. That was something I did this week. I had a busy week, stopped by the store, got a takeout pizza, but then sauteed some vegetables and put that on it and put that in the oven. So that's a way to add another vegetable intake to something that I already like and something that's easy to do. So I've talked about vegetables, what we need to eat more of. Well, of course, if we're going to eat more of something, we probably have to eat less of something else. So eat less sugar. Again, to be healthier, we want to have a little less sugar in our diet. Where do you think we get the most added sugar in our diet? I think most people got it right. From sodas, energy drinks, beverages. So if you can see in the graph here in the dark gray, They account for about 47% of our added sugar intake. That's a lot. So you look in the picture on the right, this is not just soft drinks, but coffee drinks that have sugar added to it, sport drinks. If someone's exercising a ton in the heat, maybe they need a sport drink, but most of us probably don't need that. So definitely we want to decrease the added sugar coming from beverages. Now, which of the following is not an added sugar? Someone said 5. What's 5? 4, fructose. So fructose is a natural sugar in fruit, fructose. Now the others, high fructose corn syrup, yes, we know that's an added sugar, but even things like maple syrup and honey, that's added to foods, and that your body still processes that like it does a sugar. So we want to have more natural sugars, or natural sugars are okay to have, but less of those added sugars. Okay. Now, what's the recommendations in terms of sugar? You can see for men and women, no more than 6 teaspoons a day of added sugar. And what's important is looking at the food label. And it doesn't show up too big here, but one thing that is going to be enacted soon is a change in the food label. If you look at the left is how the current food label is if you look on a product. And what's going to happen, and some products have already changed, is reflected in the food label on the right. And if you look down under total carbohydrates, about half the way down, and a little bit under that you can see total sugar, and then includes, I can't see what that says, but so much added sugar. So that's really going to help in terms of looking at food products and seeing, does it have added sugar? Because right now, if you look at that label on the left, there's total carbohydrate and then there's sugar. It doesn't tell you if it's something that has natural sugar, like from fruit or from dairy, which has a natural sugar in it, or if it's been added. So that's really going to help in terms of looking at products and seeing what's actually in there, what you're actually getting in terms of, are you getting added sugar or not? And then the last thing, or the third thing that I want to mention to improve our health, is eat whole foods. And I'm not talking about going to the grocery store Whole Foods. It's fine to go there, but eating whole foods, meaning foods that haven't been processed a lot, foods that haven't been refined, foods close to their natural form. So you can see with the chicken, like you had at lunch, some grilled chicken or roasted chicken instead of chicken nuggets. Okay, chicken nuggets go through processing. They're adding a lot of things to that to get it in that form. Having a whole grain cereal instead of a Pop-Tart. Okay, so again, think of the processing that goes on there. So which of the following, this is a little tricky question. I'm going to preface by saying that. Which of the following is considered a whole grain? Well, see, y'all are good. Popcorn is the answer. So if you look at the others, so couscous is actually a pasta. It's a very small pasta. But so it's been refined. Okay, it's gone through processing to get to that point. Multigrain bread, you have to look at the label of these. Just because it says multigrain bread doesn't mean it's a whole grain. So one of the things I tell people is look at the ingredients, and you want that first ingredient to say 100% whole wheat, whole oat, whole whatever the grain is there. You want to see that word whole there. Corn tortilla, that's one, if it's 100% corn tortilla, it would be considered a whole grain. But a lot of times they have refined flour added to it. So, but popcorn, it's just the corn that's been popped, so it's a whole grain. So showing the difference here, if you look at the left, this is the whole grain, and you can see this is like just that individual grain. There are 3 parts to it: the bran, the endosperm, and the germ. When it's been refined, all that's left, they take away the bran, they take away the germ, all that's left is the endosperm. So that's what has the carbohydrate. It does have a little bit of protein and some vitamins, but what's removed in that refining process is a lot of other vitamins and minerals, phytochemicals, those phytonutrients, those things that are really good for us. Healthy fat is removed. So we want to stick to more whole grains. So question here, how much of the recommended amount of refined grains, again, that's the kind we really don't want to have as much of, does a typical American eat? Any guesses? It's 200%. Okay, so we're eating a lot more refined grains than we should. So some examples here, if you look in the picture, you can see things like oats, and there's some different whole grains there. But things like oatmeal, brown rice, whole wheat pasta, whole wheat bread, those are whole grains, whereas refined grains are like white bread, white rice, regular pasta. Okay, so those are what we want to limit in our diet and have more of those whole grains. We're getting the fiber, we're getting the nutrients, the phytochemicals from that. So what do we want to do? Make half of our grain intake be whole grains. So it doesn't mean everything has to be a whole grain, but half of what we're having at least be whole grains. Choose, going back to kind of whole foods, having whole fruits as opposed to fruit juices. A lot of times when things are juiced, then that pulp, that peel is not used in that. So we're missing some fiber, we're missing some nutrients from that. And I always tell people, you know, you want to get the benefit of what you're eating, and so having those whole pieces of fruit as opposed to fruit juice. And it's a lot easier to get a lot of calories from juice than it is from eating a lot of fruit. And having less processed food. So again, think of, you know, that baked chicken instead of chicken nuggets and whole grain cereal instead of a Pop-Tart. These are some labels here that some companies can put on their product to show that it contains whole grains. So one thing I like to do when I give a talk is for you to think about, you know, how you can increase your vegetable intake by at least one serving a day. So think of something that you like to eat that you could add a vegetable to that. If you think of what sources of added sugar you have in your diet, what can you reduce by that? And then think of a swap that you can make from a processed food to a whole food. So think about these things to improve your diet. And I tell people to do this gradually. If you drink soft drinks, sweetened soft drinks all day long, if you drink 6 a day, I don't think it's realistic to say I'm going to go cold turkey with that immediately and never want that again. Maybe cut down to 4 a day for a couple weeks, then cut down to 2 a day, then maybe 1 a day. So make some small steps like that to improve your diet. I think the more realistic you are in terms of doing that, the longer you can maintain that healthy behavior. So one of the things that I brought here is also kind of in your handout, and it's a little smoothie builder. Who drinks smoothies? Anybody like smoothies? Okay. I would consider myself a fair weather smoothie person. I only like it when the weather's warm. I don't like it when the weather's cold. But I included this because this is one way where you can get, again, those whole pieces of fruit as well as some vegetables. So lots of times, if people don't like to eat vegetables, this might be a way to add it to something you already like and get that benefit from it just in a different way. So you can see here, we have, you know, picking a couple of fruits, add some veggies, choosing a base. So this could be something like milk or yogurt or even water. You can add that. And then some extras. So this, I want to mention this before I kind of start making it. This is where you can really add in some good kind of cancer-fighting things in your diet too. So one thing I'm going to add to the smoothie here is chia seeds. Has anybody ever had those, included those in your diet? So these are little tiny seeds that can kind of get stuck in your teeth a little bit. But they're little tiny seeds that are very high in omega-3 fatty acids. Okay. They also have protein. They also have a little fiber to them too. So they're a great thing to add. They have very little flavor. so it's not going to really significantly change the taste of what you're having. But one kind of fun thing about it, if anyone's ever done this, if you put it in a liquid and then refrigerate it, it forms kind of a gel almost, like a pudding. You may have heard of chia pudding. There's different things. So like this smoothie that I'm going to make now, it's going to be liquid, but if I stuck that in the refrigerator, because I'm putting chia in it, it'll form more of a pudding texture. I did this for my husband, or did this for both of us a few nights ago, and he got home later than me, so I just had his in the refrigerator, and then when he went to try and drink it, it wouldn't pour. It was more in a pudding form. So that's one thing that's on here. Adding herbs and spices. There's a lot of cancer-fighting antioxidants, phytochemicals in herbs and spices. So I'm going to add ginger, but things like turmeric is one. Different herbs. You could put rosemary, you could put basil, things like that in there. Some other things here, hemp seeds. You could put oats in here. I know that's not the herb or spice, but you can put green tea powder, matcha powder, so things like that. Ways to kind of, again, get these good nutrients in your diet in a different way than maybe what you're used to having. So I'm going to put this together. So the one that I am building, I call it a pineapple ginger smoothie. So I took just fresh pineapple, just the kind that's already peeled and cored in the grocery store, chopped it up, stuck it in the freezer on a sheet, let it freeze, and then put it in little baggies. So I have pineapple, banana, frozen banana. So that's giving us our sweetness. I'm going to add spinach to that. Okay, so it's going to make it a green smoothie. And for one, I didn't used to like green smoothies, but now it just feels very kind of fresh, particularly in the spring. It feels very energetic to me. So add spinach to it. I've got some almond milk. I'm going to put some almond milk and some water because I don't want it really creamy. And then I've got the chia seeds and ginger that I'm going to add. And the ginger that I have, just for kind of the ease, is this kind of in the tube. I don't know if anyone's ever seen these in the grocery store. It's like a ginger paste, but there's a lot different herbs that they have in this form. So there's basil, there's cilantro, there's other ones. So it's an easy way to just keep it in the refrigerator if you don't have fresh herbs, and just add a little bit to it. So let me try this and see if it works.